Hello and welcome to Cottoning On. My name is Lorna and Cottoning On is my YouTube channel where I talk about dressmaking, knitting, crochet, cross stitch, all the different crafty things that I have been up to. And this week's video is a little bit different. My partner and I recently went on holiday to New York City and I did a lot of craft related shopping while I was there. So I also did a little bit of filming and took some photos in the shops, and I thought it would be really good to share where I went, particularly since the city is now opening up again after COVID lockdowns. So today's video is going to be showing you a mixture of clips. So there's some that I'm filming now after the visit, there's some things that happened at the time, and there's a clip of what I bought in the different shops and what I have made already now that I'm back using the yarns that I bought, because let's be honest, it's mostly yarn with a few other bits thrown in. So let's get started. So we started our yarn shopping tour in Brooklyn and we went to 3 of the 4 yarn stores that I know are in Brooklyn. So the 3 that we went to in Brooklyn were Woolen, Brooklyn General Store and String Thing Studio, and the one we didn't go to I think was called Argyle Knits, but it was a little bit too far out for us. We walked a ridiculous number of steps on that day. So the first one that we went to was Woolen, which was a really lovely little shop. I'd seen pictures of these stores online and actually they were much smaller than they looked on camera, but I suppose that's just one of those things, isn't it? And Woolen was a really lovely store. The lady who worked in there was really friendly and was talking to us about knitting, and there was such a great variety of yarn, and they also had a really lovely window display. There was such a big selection, and I really liked that in Woolen local dyers from New York City and New York State, they were really clearly labelled. So if you wanted something that was really local as your souvenir yarn from your holiday, that it was really obvious which yarns they'd got were local, which I really liked. The shop was also really well laid out and all the yarn weights and brands were really clearly labelled. So I would say that Woolen was one of my favourite ones, really bright, really well organised, and I'll show you later on what I bought from there. We then walked to Brooklyn General Store, and I'm wearing my t-shirt from there today. Brooklyn General Store, well, it had a closed sign outside even though it was open. I would say this was less easy to find your way around, that the yarns weren't as clearly labelled, that there was a huge selection. And if you're based in the US and you're wanting to get hold of the La Bien-Aimée yarns, they had got loads of them in there. I think they just had a huge delivery of that. But again, there was lots of really beautiful yarns to look at, lots of accessories. Like I say, not as well labelled as some of the other stores, but lots of choice. We then decided to go to String Thing Studio, which was one of the on the smaller side. It was much smaller than the other 2 that we've been to that day. They had a really big selection of Madeline Tosh yarns. For saying how small the actual shop was itself, there was a lot of choice in there. Again, the owner was really friendly and asked if there was anything we could help with, and we found this was just a general thing, that actually everybody was generally really helpful in the yarn stores. So those were the 3 that we went to in Brooklyn. Then the next day we went to Manhattan yarn stores, starting with Knitty City, and I think that Knitty City is probably my favourite of all the yarn stores that I visited. There was just lots, it was clearly labelled by weight, loads of choice, lots of different things. The staff was super friendly, there was books, there was accessories, it was really lovely. I could have spent a small fortune in there. It was a really nice shop, and just round the corner from Levan Cookies, which makes it an extra bonus. I really loved as well their branding, that everything was orange, like the awning outside, the flag outside, the bags. I just really thought it was really cool the way they developed their brand, and like I say, it was just such a friendly yarn shop. And if If that was my local yarn shop, I would be happy. We then went to Downtown Yarns, which I think was on Avenue A. It was near a bagel shop, and the bagels were very good. Tompkins Square bagels, oh my goodness, they were so good. Try the pumpernickel. So we went to Downtown Yarns. By this time it was absolutely chucking it down, and this one still had quite strict COVID protocols in place, so the door was locked, you had to be asked to be let in, and there was a limit on how many people could go in there at once. This one again was quite well labelled, but this was, I would say, this was the smallest yarn store that we went in the whole time we were there. Lots and lots of beautiful yarns, lots of accessories, all kinds of things there for you to look at. It was difficult to try and get any shots in there though, just because it was so small, and there were quite a few. They were at the limit of how many people they were going to let in at that time. We then went back uptown to Annie and Company, which sells a lot of needlepoint things. Half the shop is dedicated to needlework on the left hand side, and then the right hand side was more kind of yarns. This again was really well laid out. It was really clear where everything is. Lots of really brightly coloured yarns. They'd got Chowgu needles. There was all kinds of different things, accessories and all sorts that you could buy in there. I think all of these stores offered a yarn winding service as well, so you could have had your yarn wound up, but I chose not to because I just thought it would be easier to bring them back to the UK in their skeins. I also recommend checking out a Barnes & Noble if you come across one, because they do have quite a big selection of craft books if you're in the mood for that, and I did spend quite a while looking at the Vogue knitting book in Barnes & Noble in Brooklyn. And in their periodicals section as well, they also have lots of craft magazines. I mean, a lot of them actually are UK magazines, but there are some US ones as well, and I will share what I bought in each shop, including Barnes & Noble. So what did we buy from Woolen? It's very exciting. Let's so we have the exclusive knitted wit, which is called, oops, can't get it in, Shut the Fuck Up Cakes. Look at that, very very me. I also got this one from Yarn Over New York on Times Square sock weight yarn. Greetings from Gowanus, we presume it's pronounced, which is a part of Brooklyn. These two colours are both exclusive and exclusively dyed for Woolen. I also got this, oh, my bag's fallen over. I also got this mini green shamrock sock mini to coordinate with something else I've got at home. And then we got a bit of merch. We got, oh, I'll get it out of the bag. Tip it out. I got a free sticker, a pin badge, and I also got these seriously cute New York stitch markers. So we've got a pigeon, a squirrel, a slice of pizza, and a rat. And ironically, we've seen lots of pigeons, or perhaps truthfully, we've seen lots of pigeons. We've just eaten some pizza and we saw the biggest rat yesterday scurrying out of a bin. Then Brooklyn General Store didn't have as much choice as I thought it was going to, but I still managed to find something to buy. So I got an orange t-shirt with this logo on in white, and Andrew chose this for me to knit him a pair of socks, and the shade of this is called Fall in Brooklyn. and we think this might also have been an exclusive to that store. That was yesterday. Then today we've been to Knitty City, and I got Emma's yarn, this kind of speckle in the shade Ghost Stories. This is going to be the main colour of my spring shawl. And I had to get this as one of my contrast colours, this beautiful orange, partly because orange is Knitty City's colour. It's a Madeline Tosh Merino Light in Radio City Music Hall. And given that we've been to Radio City Music Hall, I had to buy this. I had to, because it's a New York souvenir. So that's also going to be for my shawl. And then I bought two more things. I got another pin badge in Knitty City Orange. And I also got these barber cords. They are, it's not showing up right on the video. It's coming up more as like a coral on screen, but in real life they're like a hot, no, it's not doing it. Perhaps needs some daylight. It's like a hot pink. Yeah, it's really not coming up correctly on the camera. It's a hot pink. It's cool. So they're the original knitting barber cords so you can try on your circular knits. The final shop we went to was Annie and Company. I got this coral, I think it's called neon coral, that I'm also going to use for my shawl as the third contrast colour. So it's a little bit like the official kit from Yarnia, but we weren't going to Yarnia, it was too far into New Jersey. And I also got this out of the clearance bin. Andrew found this for me. This is another yarn over New York, and it is called, oh hang on, I'm on the wrong side. It is called Blueberry Cheesecake, and it sparkles. Oh, look at that. Might be a bit hard to wind though, it's looking a bit loose there. So, and I also got some Chalgu red lace needles to try when I do my shawl, because I've heard these are meant to be good. So I thought I'd give them a go. They're a 32-inch, 80cm long cable US 6. Somebody ought to burn my credit card before. But yeah, we've had a good stomp round the yarn stores of New York. It's been very enjoyable. So on to dressmaking places. There is so much choice in the garment district. The garment district is a whole area kind of around 7th and 8th Avenues in the 30s. So going north of 34th Street up to about 40th Street, I think, is technically the garment district in Manhattan. And there is just so many stores. There's so many small stores, there are big stores. If you walk around, that you'll come across places that are fabric sellers. There's so many stores that sell trims as well. So the first place that I went to two fabric stores. I went to Mood and I went to I think it's called B&J Fabrics. I want to say B&M because of the store here, the discount store. But yeah, B&J Fabrics. Both of these are more difficult to find. You're not going to just come across them walking down the street. I can't remember the exact address of each, but you need to go up in the lift to these stores. They're not on the ground floor. But it's really easy. It takes you straight there. You're delivered right outside the shop. And Mood is like a 3-floor bonanza of fabric. There is every kind of fabric that you've ever dreamed of. If you've ever watched Project Runway, I'm sure you've kind of experienced it. There is a whole range of things. They have Mood exclusive fabrics. They have ex-designer fabric. There is all kinds of things. There is wovens, there is knits, everything that you could ever dream of. They had like vinyl to make bags, just so much choice. And I didn't actually buy any fabric on this trip because I was overwhelmed. not gonna lie, I was overwhelmed. I have bought some on a previous trip. I bought some Mood exclusive cotton lawn, but when I walked in there, it was quite warm in there, and with wearing a mask all the time, it was really warm, and I just got very overwhelmed very quickly. But there is such a huge selection of things, and there is also a big haberdashery section on the main floor where not far from the till there's loads. I've bought things from there before, like zips, stay tape, all kinds of things, and they have a trim selection as well. We then went to B&J Fabrics, which I would say is more of a high-end place. It seemed like there were lots of fashion students in there who were working on things. There were like tables for them to work at, and there were a lot of people who were looking for very specific things. If you're in the US, they are a Liberty stockist, but obviously the price was quite a bit higher than it is here in the UK. I mean, it's expensive here anyway. It's gone up to kind of £25 a metre or £30 a metre if you want the organic cotton lawn, so it is a lot of money, but it was a lot in B&J Fabrics. This was one where the rolls weren't in the shop. They had like a sample piece on a hanger, and you took the hanger and then they would go and find the roll and have that cut for you. Again, there wasn't quite as much selection, I would say, as in Mood, but if you are looking for something very specific, a real kind of treat, something really special, that would be, I would say that would be the place to go. I'm glad I went for the experience of going and seeing it all and it being really organised, but again, I didn't buy anything. So between those stores, there are loads of trim stores. I went in Pacific Trimming, which was basically zip heaven. There were every zip you could ever possibly need or want. Every length, every style. There was invisible, there was standard, there was those ones with the exposed teeth, there was multicolour. Oh, I could have been in there for hours, and that sounds pretty tragic, doesn't it, looking at zips. But yeah, there was loads in there, and they were playing a lot of Taylor Swift. I think they must have had a playlist on that day when I went in. But yeah, Pacific Trim, or Trimmings I think it is, it was just really well laid out, really well lit. There was a button set. Oh yeah, it was just lovely. So between Pacific Trimming and Mood, I just bought a lot of zips because I do most of my fabric shopping here online, and it can be really difficult to see the colours of things often, you know, with your screen resolution, that you can end up buying the wrong thing. So I've got a zip for some trousers, and then I've just got some invisible zips in a variety of, oh, they're all stuck together, in a variety of colours, and some of them are more lightweight. I think I bought this one. This is a more lightweight one. Yeah, this is a more lightweight zip if you compare it to, if I hold these two side by side, you can see the one on my right is much more lightweight. This one will be more suitable, which I've just dropped, for rayon. So I just got a whole host of zips in colours that I don't already have. So those were my dressmaker things. Yes, Pacific Trimming is on West 38th Street. And then Mood is on West 37th Street on the 3rd floor, but for British people that's really the 2nd floor. So I bought the zips, and I also bought a Thank You Mood t-shirt, which I don't have on. Obviously I've got my Brooklyn one on, but I will wear that, I'm sure, in a future video. I also got, in the periodicals section from Barnes & Noble, I bought Just Cross Stitch magazine. This is the April edition. I haven't cross stitched in a little while, but I just thought this looked like a really nice Easter springtime edition, and I really liked this design on the front. And the only thing I do find that is better about UK cross stitch magazines is the patterns are still always black and white. They're much more like the cross-stitch magazines that I remember from my childhood in this country. Cross-stitcher and World of Cross-Stitching both tend to use colour and symbol charts, which is my personal preference now. But they do often have some good designs in here, and I really like the Christmas ornaments and Halloween editions, but obviously it's too soon for those. I then also bought this Threads magazine because I was interested in the section about adjust patterns to match your posture, because I do have quite hunched shoulders, and I just thought that would be a really interesting read. These magazines were, it was $6.99 for just cross stitch, and Threads was $9.99. There's lots of pattern and fabric recommendations, interesting looking articles, and it isn't just about dressmaking. There's a bit on needlework. There's all sorts in here, how to applique onto your projects, that kind of thing. So those were my magazine purchases from the periodicals section of Barnes & Noble. So I bought all of this yarn. I went to New York a little while ago now, and I've been back quite a few weeks, so I bet you're wondering what I should have done with all of that yarn. I haven't used all of it because I want to savour it, you know. But I have made two things. So the first thing that I've made with the yarn from Brooklyn General Store, which I spotted at the checkout, are these perfect fit socks for my partner, and he has worn them quite a few times. He does have comparatively small feet, so there's about half the cake. It was a slightly bigger cake. There's about half a cake left of this yarn, and I think I'm going to use the leftovers to make a hat once we get into the autumn. So that's one skein that is used / accounted for. And then the other thing, which you may have seen in my podcast episodes, is the outstranding shawl, which I made as part of the Loving Stitches and Yarnia make along. So I'm planning, although it is a shawl, it's not exactly huge, so I'm planning to wear it as more like a scarf in the spring and the autumn. There's not loads of the main colour left, but the orange and pink I am using to make a Harlow hat for me, which is a brioche pattern by Andrea Mowry. So that's three of the yarns that I bought as well there. So I've used 4 of the ones that I've bought, and I have plans for the leftovers. So to summarise, would I recommend craft shopping in New York City? And the answer is yes. If you are a yarny person, if you're a knitter, a crocheter, there are so many stores that you can visit, and you could spend so much money. There are so many beautiful yarns, so many American dyes that are more expensive here or more difficult to get here. So yes, as a yarn person, definitely. As a dressmaker, yes, I would also recommend that. If you are looking for kind of special fabrics, then definitely go to Mood and go to B&J Fabrics, which and the trimming shops as well. Definitely lots of choice of zip, every zip you could ever want. Yes, as a dressmaker. I would say though, if you are looking for kind of more budget things and you're thinking of places like Joanne or Michael's, then there is a Michael's in Brooklyn on Atlantic Avenue, not far from Woolen. Was it a Michael's? I think it was. But I don't think there is a Joanne that's close by in the city. What I have done on previous visits to the US though is I have ordered online and had it delivered to the hotel just before I arrived. So that is something that you could do. But if you were wanting to go and browse like a massive Joanne, New York isn't the place for you to do that. You could spend the vast majority of your time looking at crafty things. It just depends how willing your travel companions are to go and look at craft stuff all the time. So that's it for today's video. I really hope you found that interesting and informative. If you've been to New York and can recommend any other places that I might have missed that other people might like to visit, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye!